Every day you wake up, you're already losing, not because life is unfair, not because other people were born with better cards, because most people are fighting life with a mind that has been quietly trained to betray them. And the worst part is this. Most people never even realize they are under attack. They think they are making choices. They think they are deciding their future. They think they are chasing success. But underneath all of that, invisible patterns are making those decisions for them. That is why some people spend years trying to win and still feel like life keeps slipping through their hands. Money comes in and disappears. Opportunities show up and somehow vanish. Relationships begin and then collapse. Confidence rises and then dies in silence. And after enough losses, people begin believing the most dangerous lie of all. Maybe life was never meant for me. That lie destroys more people than failure ever could. Because once a person starts believing they are meant to lose, they stop fighting. And once they stop fighting, life starts deciding for them. That is how people slowly become spectators in their own story. They are alive, but they are not living. They are moving, but they are not progressing. They are breathing, but they are not becoming. And almost nobody talks about the real reason. Because the real enemy is not outside you. It is inside you. It is the version of you that learned to survive instead of conquer. The version that became comfortable with less. The version that learned how to avoid pain instead of use it. The version that keeps whispering the same sentence every time life asks more from you. Maybe tomorrow. That single sentence has destroyed millions of lives. Not dramatically. Quietly. One delayed decision at a time. One avoided risk at a time. One excuse at a time. Most people do not lose their life in one catastrophic moment. They lose in small, invisible moments nobody sees. The 5 minutes after waking up. The moment they choose distraction over discipline. The moment they choose comfort over growth. The moment they know exactly what needs to be done and still walk away from it. That is where losing really begins. And what makes it worse is that many people were trained to live that way. From childhood, people are taught to seek approval before identity, to seek permission before action, to seek safety before greatness. They are taught how to fit in, not how to stand apart. They are taught how to obey, not how to lead themselves. And after enough years of that conditioning, most people become strangers to their own potential. They do not trust themselves. They do not believe themselves. They do not even know who they would be without fear. So they build a life around safety. And they call that maturity. They call it realism. They call it being practical. But underneath all those polished words is the same truth. Fear. Fear of failure. Fear of judgment. Fear of rejection. Fear of responsibility. Because if you admit you could become more, you must also admit you have been settling for less. And that realization can shake a person. So most people avoid it. They distract themselves instead. And distraction has become one of the most dangerous addictions in modern life. Because distraction does not just steal your time. It steals your focus. Then it steals your discipline. Then it steals your identity. And eventually it steals the future you could have had. A distracted mind cannot build a powerful life. Because attention is power. Where your attention goes, your life follows. And most people have handed their attention to noise, notifications, validation, comparison, temporary pleasure, meaningless stimulation. Then they wonder why their life feels weak. But the deeper problem is not distraction. The deeper problem is identity. Because your life does not rise to the level of what you want. It rises to the level of who you believe you are. That is why some people sabotage success when it gets close. That is why some people destroy relationships they prayed for. That is why some people quit the moment momentum begins. Because your nervous system will always try to pull you back toward what feels familiar, even if familiar is painful. Your mind would rather keep you in familiar suffering than lead you into unfamiliar greatness. That is why people repeat the same pattern for years. Different places, different faces, different circumstances, same internal prison. They think life is attacking them, but often they are reliving the same identity. That is a disease. And until you understand that, nothing changes. Because you cannot win life while remaining the same person who keeps creating the same losses. The cure starts with something most people avoid. Radical ownership. No blame. No excuses. No waiting. No victim story. The moment you take ownership of your life, your power begins returning. That does not mean everything that happened to you was your fault. It means everything from this moment forward becomes your responsibility. And responsibility is where transformation begins. Weak people ask, why is this happening to me? Powerful people ask, what is this trying to teach me? That question changes everything. Because every loss contains information. Every rejection reveals something. Every betrayal exposes standards. Every failure shows weakness. Every painful season reveals what still needs to be rebuilt. Most people experience pain and become bitter. Rare people experience pain and become sharper. That difference creates entirely different lives. Because pain can destroy you, or it can train you, and the choice is often hidden in the meaning you give it. That is why two people can go through the same storm and leave as completely different human beings. One leaves wounded. The other leaves awakened. The storm was not the difference. Interpretation was. And once you learn to use pain as instruction instead of punishment, life begins changing. But ownership alone is not enough. Because even people who understand their patterns still remain stuck. And the reason is simple. They are still addicted to comfort. Comfort is seductive. Comfort feels safe. Comfort feels familiar. Comfort feels harmless. But comfort quietly destroys potential. Because everything extraordinary in life asks for discomfort first. Confidence asks for embarrassment. Strength asks for pain. Discipline asks for sacrifice. Growth asks for uncertainty. Success asks for patience. And most people want the reward without the cost. They want victory without transformation. That never happens. To win more, you must become someone your old life no longer recognizes. That requires discipline, not motivation. Discipline. Motivation is unreliable. It comes when life feels easy. It disappears when life becomes difficult. Discipline stays. Discipline moves when emotions collapse. Discipline acts when feelings disappear. Discipline keeps promises your moods cannot keep. That is why disciplined people seem different. Because they stopped asking, do I feel like it? And started asking, what must be done? That shift alone separates average people from dangerous people. Because the strongest people are not always the most talented. They are often the most consistent. They do what others avoid. Repeatedly, quietly, without applause, without validation, without needing anyone to watch. That is what makes them rare. Most people only work when they feel inspired. Powerful people work because they made a decision. And once someone stops negotiating with themselves, life starts responding differently. Because standards begin shaping reality. That is another truth people ignore. Your standards determine your life. What you tolerate becomes your environment. What you excuse becomes your identity. What you repeatedly accept becomes your future. If you tolerate weakness from yourself, weakness grows. If you tolerate chaos, chaos multiplies. If you tolerate disrespect, disrespect becomes normal. Winning in life often begins by refusing to accept what once felt normal. That means raising your standards. For your body, for your mind, for your relationships, for your habits, for your time, for your future. And that requires self-respect, not confidence. Self-respect. Because confidence can disappear. Self-respect stays. Confidence can be shaken by failure. Self-respect grows through discipline. Confidence can depend on outcomes. Self-respect depends on who you are becoming. And once self-respect becomes stronger than comfort, everything starts shifting. You speak differently. You move differently. You choose differently. You carry yourself differently. And people feel that before you ever say a word. Because energy always reveals what words try to hide. A person who respects themselves does not beg. They do not chase. They do not shrink. They do not betray themselves for temporary approval. That kind of person becomes difficult to ignore. And that is when life begins changing in ways that look almost mysterious from the outside. But it is not magic. It is alignment. Because life responds to who you are. Not who you pretend to be. Not who you wish to be. Who you repeatedly prove yourself to be. That means winning everything in life is not really about money. It is not really about status. It is not really about external success. It is about becoming the kind of person who can handle success without destroying it. Because many people can attract success. Very few can sustain it. And the people who sustain it usually master themselves first. That is the hidden truth. Winning is not getting everything you want. Winning is becoming someone who can stand in chaos and still remain centered. Someone who can lose and still keep moving. Someone who can be doubted and still believe. Someone who can be hurt and still stay open. Someone who can be tested and still refuse to break. That person does not need to chase life. Life starts moving toward them. Because the world responds differently when you stop acting like a victim inside your own story. And for most people, the biggest battle was never with life. It was with the version of themselves that kept choosing comfort over power. The moment that version dies, everything changes. Because the real secret to winning everything in life was never learning how to control the world. It was learning how to become someone the world could no longer